Nation, how's it going? This is Alex Yu and you're watching the Marvel edition of the Ragin Nation show. This is just web series we're talking about all things mattering in the world of Marvel films. This is episode number 105, and in this episode I'm going to give you guys a top 10 list. Captain America Civil War comes out in May, and it officially kicks off Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so therefore I thought that this would be the most appropriate time to give you my top 10 list of villains for the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1 and Phase 2 combined. That is a total of 12 films, but only 10 villains are going to make the cut. We're going to start off with number 10, and that would be Red Skull, aka Johann Schmidt, played by Hugo Weaving in Captain America: The First Avenger. I think that Hugo Weaving did a great job. He was perfectly cast as Red Skull. He played a very evil and great leader. He led Hydra. But I think that where his character fell apart the most, for me, in my opinion, was when it was time to fight Captain America, and that's where I felt that he's not a very formidable opponent. I mean, he's not they're not equally matched. Captain America is obviously stronger, but that is why I think that he is number 10 in this list. Number 9 is Abomination, aka Emil Blonsky, played by Tim Roth in The Incredible Hulk. I actually liked the Emil Blonsky character. He wasn't very well written, but I still liked him in the sense that he had more personality than when he became Abomination. Once he becomes Abomination, then it's just a full-on slugfest. He's the anti-Hulk. And yeah, he put up a good fight, but he still didn't beat the Hulk. I mean, of course he's not going to beat the Hulk. But still, I would have loved to see more of Abomination somewhere in the middle of the film, not just only the final part of the movie. So that's number 9. Number 8 is Whiplash, aka Ivan Vanko, played by Mickey Rourke in Iron Man 2. Now, Iron Man 2, with Whiplash being the main villain, is kind of debatable. I mean, you could say it is Sam Rockwell's character, a Hammer from Hammer Industries, Justin Hammer. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, Justin Hammer is the main villain, but the anti-Iron Man is Whiplash, and I like Whiplash, actually. I think that he's a very, very strong opponent. In all the Iron Man films, it's really the same theme. You find a guy who wants to go up against, or rather wants to challenge Iron Man because he believes he has the better technology. And it's pretty cool because there are two versions of Whiplash. There's the Mark I version, which is just him with the whips, which was, quite a badass action sequence. And then, of course, him as the I guess, Crimson Dynamo suit, or Whiplash Mark II. That was pretty awesome because that is a version of himself which is like on steroids. Like, he's got the full armor, but essentially it still carries the Whiplash type technology. So it's really just Whiplash in full armor. But what's also strong about him is that he commands a whole squad of the iron, those iron soldiers, right? So that was pretty awesome. Number 7 is the Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan in Captain America: Winter Soldier. Now, when you really think about it, Winter Soldier there's two aspects about Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is awesome in the sense that he's a very, very strong opponent physically. He's a great fighter, very, very strong, and Captain America was almost not able to beat him. But in the other sense, he's a very well-written villain because he's Bucky. He's Bucky Barnes. He is Captain America's Steve Rogers' best buddy. So therefore, that emotional aspect alone makes him harder to beat because Steve Rogers or Captain America doesn't want to kill him. He doesn't want to beat him, and that's what's holding him back. So it's a very well-written part of the story. I find that his character doesn't have a lot of depth when he's Winter Soldier because he really doesn't have much of a personality, but it adds a lot of depth to the story in that sense, all right? But honestly speaking, the big bad villain is, of course, Alexander Pierce, played by Robert Redford. But Winter Soldier is, of course, the main guy that goes up against Captain America. But anyways, I loved the fight scenes that a Winter Soldier had with Captain America. They were all so well choreographed. Number 6 is Ronan the Accuser, played by Lee Pace in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's very, very evil. You can see that he is feared. In fact, when he's in the costume, he's got that giant hammer, and you hear that voice, you feel like, okay, this is an evil villain. And he looks really, really cool. He looks really badass, but he really doesn't do a whole lot in the movie. He had this fight with Drax the Destroyer, but he was ultimately killed, or destroyed rather, by one of the gems and a dance-off from Star-Lord. But I like the fact that he's very, very feared, and he's like this big bad evil galactic villain. I like that. That alone makes me feel like, okay, this is a cool villain. He doesn't have much to do really in the movie, but at the end of it all, I think he's still a pretty cool villain. Here's where the villains start getting better, in my opinion, okay? Number 5 is Aldrich Killian, played by Guy Pearce in Iron Man 3. I like that there's a backstory to Aldrich Killian. You know, he's the character that he wants to suck up to Tony Stark. He wants to show off, you know, his technology and his developments in science or whatever. But Tony Stark blows him off, and then so because of that, he takes that personal, and he decides that, you know what, screw Tony Stark, I want to do my own thing, and I'm gonna be an even better Tony Stark, or I'm gonna be a better guy who knows all about science and technology and mechanics and all that. So that's what he went to become, and I like that backstory about him. And then what he was able to become later on was just crazy. I mean, it was crazy. He breathes fire. He can regenerate. He can like have lava hands, which like melt metal. So that in itself makes him a very strong foe for Iron Man. And I think that he's quite scary and unpredictable. So he's number 5. Number 4 is Obadiah Stane, who becomes Ironmonger, played by Jeff Bridges in the very first Iron Man film. And once again, I love the background of this character. He was there to help run the company, but once he sees Tony Stark taking it in an opposite direction, he decides that, you know what, I'm taking over. Screw Tony Stark, I'm taking over. I'm going to do what I want with the company. And if Tony Stark wants to mess around, then I'm going to take him down. And that's what he decided to do. And he was pretty evil after seeing what he did. You know, with you know, double crossing Tony Stark. So that was pretty bad. Number 3 is Yellowjacket, aka Darren Cross, played by Corey Stoll in Ant-Man. And once again, it's kind of a cliche thing. It's kind of like the Obadiah Stane of Ant-Man. You have the predecessor of Pym Industries, and then he decides to take over. He doesn't like the way that the company is running, so he takes it over, kicking out the you know, Hank Pym, and then now he is the leader of the company. Once Hank Pym comes back into the picture, you know what, he wants to do something evil. Which is the direction of the company that Hank Pym doesn't want. So then he becomes Yellowjacket, and then we get into this really cool and fun battle between Yellowjacket and Ant-Man, and I felt that battle was quite memorable. It's very dynamic, it's very different from what we've ever seen, and I thought that the whole thing itself was very, very memorable, and the humor that was included in the scene made it that much more memorable. So that's number 3. Number 2 is Ultron, played by James Spader in Avengers Age of Ultron. Ultron was a very scary villain, very unpredictable, very strong villain. I love the fact that he is AI, but he's got this really evil human personality. Like I said, very, very unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do next, and you don't know what he's capable of doing. I mean, there's Ultron himself, but then he controls technology. He can make more of him if he wanted to. He can improve himself if he wanted to, which he ended up doing. He can make legions and legions of Ultron minions, and he's a very, very strong opponent. The only problem is with his character is that in the movie, he just went out like a total... You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, they killed him so many times. Hulk killed him, Vision killed him, Scarlet Witch killed him, and I'm just thinking, why won't he just die already? But I really liked him. I mean, before the final act of the film, the big battle, I felt that, like, this is a very, very fearful and scary villain. I think this is a villain that is... pretty scary, and that's what we need. We need scary villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we also need villains played by great actors, and I think that Ultron would not be the same had it not been played by James Spader. James Spader did such a great job in the voice, in the motion capture, and he brought Ultron to life, so that is number 2 for you. And number 1 is Loki in the Avengers, played by Tom Hiddleston. I'm not talking about Loki in Thor, I'm talking about Loki in the Avengers. Because, first of all, Tom Hiddleston, love his performance as Loki. He's also very unpredictable. I wouldn't call him a very scary villain like Ultron, but I love the fact that you never know what he's thinking. He's, after all, Loki, the god of mischief and trickery, so you don't know what he's up to. I mean, he did some pretty mischievous things in Thor the Dark World, but in Avengers, he's the god of mischief. I mean, he brings in an entire army of aliens, the Chitauri, into New York. And then he goes up against his brother, and when you think that his brother's able to talk sense into him, he just stabs you in the side. So, strong performance from Tom Hiddleston, making him a very, very likable villain. And to top things off, he is a villain that is just a lot of fun to watch, making him number 1 on my list. So, I did say Loki was the villain in Avengers, but also the villain in Thor. I felt that his presence in Thor wasn't as strong, considering that there were multiple villains. I mean, there was the Destroyer, you know, that destroyed the town in Thor, and of course there's the Laufey, who was the leader of the Frost Giants, and then there's Thor. I mean, sorry, and then there's Loki. So I felt that the balance of who the main villain is was a little bit, it's quite debatable. So I wouldn't say that I liked Loki more in Thor. I mean, I liked Loki in Thor. I liked him a lot more in Avengers, okay? So, I named 10 villains, but there are 12 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Phase 1 and Phase 2, Loki did appear in the Avengers and also Thor. So who got left out? Well, that would be Malekith, played by Christopher Eccleston in Thor the Dark World. And I felt that he was a pretty weak villain. I actually really enjoyed Thor the Dark World, but it wasn't because of the villain. It was just because of the story as a whole and the developments that Thor goes through as a character. But as for Malekith as a dark elf is really nothing without the dark matter. If it weren't for the dark matter, then his character as a villain would not be interesting at all, and he would not be a match for Thor. Without the dark matter, Malekith is nothing really. So that's why he did not make the cut. Anyways, I've listed my 10 villains. I've ranked them from number 10 to number 1. What is your ranking for villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1 and Phase 2? We are now entering into Phase 3, so once Phase 3 is over, I will give you another list of top villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Anyways, that's all I gotta say in this video. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, Ragin Nation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. Decided to pull back on the silliness. He pulled back on the fun. It's not a fun situation. He kept it serious in tone, and he kept it